Okay, hi, welcome. We have three very brave volunteers, very generous volunteers to help us demonstrate what some of the variations are in a very gentle kind of basic moves in yoga. So we're gonna start out seated. And one of the first things that we start with is breathing. We want you to breathe in and out through your nose as much as possible. Now, like how they're demonstrating that? If you ever have any trouble breathing in and out of your nose, if it feels a little too constricting, of course, breathe however it's most comfortable. Eventually, it gets a little bit more comfortable. So I'm going to give you a couple moments here, a couple breaths, to start softening through your shoulders. Relax all the muscles in your face. Take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through your nose. So that's usually how we start a class, just helping everybody to get centered, get softer, pay real close attention to how you're breathing. And then we start to sync that movement with the breath so that we bring all our attention into the moment, into what we're doing. So we're going to give you guys a couple of demonstrations here. This first one is going to be moving in sync with the breath and moving our spine in all 6 directions. Then we're going to show you some variations for some other poses, and then we'll come back down and show you some really relaxing things you can do for your spine on the back, on the ground. So first, they're going to take their arms up overhead, inhaling to bring the palms together and exhale to bring them down. And we do that a few times. So they're going to move at their own pace, inhaling as they reach, exhaling as they lower. And we're just setting the pace. We're setting the tone for the practice so that as we move through other parts of the body, we have this same easy flow going. The next time they inhale up, they're going to drop their left hand to the floor and reach their right arm up and over for a little side stretch, a little side flow. And then inhale back to center, exhale in the opposite direction. So you're taking your spine side to side. One more time up. And one more fold. And we better make it even. So we'll go back to the other side one more time. And from here, we'll move right into the twist. So they're going to twist to the left. And then they're going to inhale right back up to the center and twist to the right. So they're keeping that same easy flow to their breath going. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose as much as possible, but again, letting that go when it doesn't feel comfortable. One more time on each side. And this is a real typical warm-up of any class. Then they're going to come back to the center and they're going to do what we call a seated cat-cow pose. We'll demonstrate this on our knees as well, but they're going to round the back. Go ahead and round the back. Take a breath in when you tuck the chin a little bit here, and then lift up and lengthen the spine. Try to sit up as tall as you can. Good. Inhale to round, and then exhale to lift. And they're going to do that a couple more times. So you'll notice we took the spine forward and back, side to side, and then twisting on each side. So all 6 ways. You can do this seated, you can do it standing, you can do it reclined, but it's really good to increase your mobility in the spine. And then I'm going to have them show you, we're going to skip some of the standing poses. We're going to come back to those in another video. But from here, I'm going to have them cross over to their hands and knees, coming into a tabletop position. Now we have little cushions and knee pads, but you can also double up like a kitchen towel if this bothers your knees. They're going to round their back just like we did seated just now and tuck the chin, moving through the spine a little bit here, and then lower the belly. Get a little arch in the spine or a little sway in the back, and then keep that going. Again, moving in sync with the breath. Good, so they're gonna inhale one direction and exhale the other. Now, I've heard people over the years say, I just couldn't get the breathing right, and that's never gonna be an issue. We cue that for you so that it reminds you to breathe. But if it feels better to you to breathe in a different direction at a different time, that's absolutely fine. The goal here is to keep you breathing and moving. From here, they're going to roll back to a high child's pose. So I'm hoping you can see this from that angle. Yeah, you can. So in a high child's pose, they're rounding their low back, but they're lengthening down through the arms. So you can see we're lengthening through the spine here. You're getting some opening through the shoulders. Now they could drop all the way back. Go ahead and drop all the way back to a child's pose. That's not always comfortable on everybody's knees. So we do have you come up to that high child's pose if it doesn't work, if you've got a little bit more around the middle and it keeps you from going back, or maybe your knees or the tops of your feet don't want to bend that way. Go ahead and come up to a tabletop again. Tabletop position is hands and knees. They're going to go back to a high child's pose again, just rounding through the low back. Now, again, I just want to point out one more time, they're lengthening through the spine here. You've probably all Googled or heard of downward dog, and these guys are professionals, so they're all going to show you a downward dog. Go ahead and come up into down dog. Most people think that the idea in down dog is to straighten the legs and get the heels to the floor, but I'm going to have them keep their knees bent a little bit and then lift their hips up and back. So this is, again, our goal here is to lengthen through the spine. But you never have to do this posture because, come on down, go back to a high child's pose. You're lengthening the spine right here as well. So if you love downward dog and your shoulders feel good about that and you want to do a little more strengthening, that's fine. But please don't ever feel like that's required. Coming back up to a tabletop, we're going to show you a couple of options for plank pose because that's another one that gets Googled quite frequently. So come into a modified plank. They're going to walk their hands forward and they're going to drop the hips a little bit here. So they're having to engage in the belly. This gives you a little bit of core, but nothing too crazy. Now, if you would like, you can always take your knees off the ground. And I believe all these guys like to occasionally bring the knees off the ground into a full plank. How we get there, if we don't have that strength right away, is drop the knees. We come here and then we bend the elbows a little bit at a time. We bend and come back up, bend and come back up. So you're starting to strengthen there with the knees on the ground to give you a lot more support in the arms before you come up to a plank pose. Then we're going to lower all the way down to the floor. And we're pressing up into what we call cobra. It's a tiny back bend. So they're just going to lift the chest and lower down, lift the chest and lower down. And they're going to keep doing that 3 or 4 more times. And we're just trying to loosen up the low back again. So again, we're talking about the way the spine moves. So you have a little more flexibility, a little more range of motion. And if it's strength that you're after and you want a little bit more stability and balance, then you're going to come right back up into your modified plank. Go ahead, come up to modified plank. Yeah, that's you guys. They're so focused on their cobra, they didn't want to leave it. So when they come back up into modified plank, they're going to move right back into a tabletop. So coming back to a neutral place. Pretty much between every flow we do or everything we do, we're trying to come back to neutral in between everything. So you always have a little bit of a break and you could stay there as long as you like. From here, I think I'm going to have, was there anything else from this position, you think? Oh yeah, let's come down onto the forearms. So here's another option. If you have any wrist issues, you can come down onto the forearms right here and then walk your knees back a little bit. So we're back in that modified plank, but instead of being on the hands, on the wrists, you're on the forearms. Now they are still having to pull the belly in, and it's still a real strong workout for the core and the obliques, you know, around the middle and the sides. And they can still lower down or lift the knees if they choose. Do you guys like lifting your knees on this one? Maybe? No, not really. See, they don't care. I just do whatever. All right, let's come back to a seated position. So those are the basic modifications in a new class if you were to come to a gentle class. And all of the teachers are really great about offering modifications both ways too. So if you want to soften something up a little, or if you want to do something a little bit more challenging. But for here, for the purpose of this video, I want to show you guys a couple of things on the back that you can do. So I'm going to have them spin around and face the other way. And they're going to drop over onto their backs and pull their knees up in towards their belly. When you're on your back, you don't have any strain on the spine and no strain on the low back muscles. So you can open that space up a little bit more. They're going to take their knees and roll them around in a circle. So it's almost like a little bit of a massage on the lower back. Now they could also squeeze the knees in and just rock from side to side. This helps you rock around the outer edges of your hips where you might have some tightness, all around the low back. And if you rock wildly from side to side, you can get around the elbows and the shoulders. And at first it might feel kind of bony, but it actually, that compression releases a little bit of tension in the body. So they can rock a little bit here and then come back to center. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into the hips and have them come into a reclined pigeon. So they'll put their feet on the floor. They're going to cross their right ankle over their left knee. And that's it. You can stay right there. That's a little bit of a hip opener. If they like having a little bit more of a low back stretch or a glute stretch, they can draw that left knee in towards them. And again, either stay right there or they can rock a little bit from side to side. So again, you can always leave the foot on the ground or you can bring it up. These last few, the rolling your knees around, this reclined pigeon, and our reclined twists are really great for releasing any tension in the back, especially at night before you go to bed. Go ahead and switch sides. I don't want them to go out of here crooked. So before we demo the twists, I want them to have an opportunity to go to the other side. Now there's lots of different variations of this too. So we always try to offer you lots of options. From here, we'll take a couple more breaths. I always try to get them to drop their shoulders here. Even though you're reaching up to hold onto your leg, if you could just loosen your shoulders a tiny bit so we don't build up any extra tension in the back of the neck and the upper back. All right, go ahead and bring your feet back to the floor. So 3 different kinds of reclined twists we usually start with. The first one is to bring your knees all the way up and squeeze them in close towards your belly, and then drop them over to the left side of your mat and take your arms back out to the sides with your palms face up. Anytime you're laying with your eyes closed and your palms face up, by the way, that's a direct message to your nervous system that it's okay to relax. It tells you you're in a safe place, and it can stop sending tense defensive messages out to your muscles and ligaments. Go ahead and bring your knees to the other side. Again, I got to keep them balanced so they can demo the next video also. So once they come into the twist, they want to take a really big breath here in through the nose, long, slow exhale out through the nose. Those long exhales are also a direct message to your nervous system saying that we can slow things down a bit, we can soften here, we can relax, and we can release. Now, another option for the twist is to bring the legs back up to the center, put the feet on the floor, and walk your feet away from you a little bit so that the feet are closer to the end of your mat, and then lower the knees slowly to the left. Your other left. Your other left. So here they're going to take a big breath in. They're getting a little bit of a lower back twist here. So with your feet away from you, you'll feel this. It sometimes is a little wonky in the low back. So if you don't like that, if it doesn't feel right, you just bring your knees up and do it the first way. Or you can go ahead. I'm going to have you guys go back to the right side. Oh yeah, thanks for demoing that, Joanna. I was going to say, I don't think she likes that twist, but she just comes right out of it. Anytime you don't like something, you come right out of it. Doesn't mean you're not getting the benefit of breathing and moving. So from here, come back to the center, walk your feet out to the edges of your mat, and then drop your knees together in the center. So you create a little bit of a kind of a pyramid triangle shape. Then they're just going to windshield wiper their knees a little bit from side to side. And you always decide the intensity of these things. You can windshield wiper a tiny bit, or you can windshield wiper a lot, depending on how that feels in your low back. Yeah, they're still breathing in and out through their nose for a number of reasons. Breathing in and out of your nose. I'll go ahead and let you guys come into Shavasana while I explain this part. So at the very end of each class, and this is a very small sample, but we wanted to give you an idea, is at the very end of class, we come into a relaxation period called Shavasana. It's where you just lay however comfortable you can get. Most people will put their socks and sweatshirts on. They'll slide a bolster under their knees because that'll release a little tension in the low back. They have their eyes closed if they're comfortable with that. You don't have to, palms open, but it's just a period to let your nervous system settle and integrate everything that you just practiced, kind of remember it. But one of the main reasons we're inhaling and exhaling through the nose, or a few of the main reasons, it slows everything down because we don't usually concentrate on breathing like that. So it makes you focus a little more. It slows you down a little more. And then recently they've discovered even more benefits where you release more nitric oxide, which opens up your cardiovascular system. So this is breathing in and out through your nose is really good for your heart. It's really good for everything overall. So we give you guys a little bit of time at the end of practice. Sometimes we have music on, sometimes we don't. But I actually think you could do any exercise. You could walk for 40 minutes, you could jog, you could swim, you could skip, whatever you want to do. If you just took this part at the end to allow your nervous system to get back at your whole body's, excuse me, in what we call anatomically neutral. So your breath can flow, your energy can flow, everything can flow unobstructed. And then you just slow the breathing down. And when you do this, your body then becomes familiar with this calm, easy space. And the more often you do it, the more natural it feels, the easier it is for you to get there. So if you did watch this video with us and you did this practice, please feel free to stay in this position as long as you like. Thank you.